Too many times we stand aside and let the waters slip away till what we put off to tomorrow has finally come today. So don't stand upon the shoreline and say you're satisfied. Choose to chance the rapids and dare to dance the tide. Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maxwell Ivy, known around the world as The Blind Blogger, and you can find me at theblindblogger.net. That's also where you can purchase a copy of my latest book, The Blind Blogger's New York City Adventures, How You Can Make Your Dreams Come True. And today I have another, well, this guy is a little more than most of my guests. Has a very inspiring story. His name is
Ervin.
Irvin Liz. Yeah, I told you I would mess something up. His name is Irvin Liz, and he's, if nothing else, his changes in geography are inspiring, but he's got a great story. He's originally from the Colombian state in Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
He grew up in a very rural part of that country.
Right.
And according to his bio, at one point, lived in a town that didn't have electricity, which I find very impressive. He grew up there, went off to high school in Norway, to college in Minnesota. He now runs a business called
the Colombian Coffee Connection.
Coffee Connection.
Yes.
At colombiancoffeeconnection.com. And they bring in specialty coffees, but they do it in a way where the farmers are actually paid a fair wage. Mm-hmm. And not only that, he reinvests some of his profits back into building homes in his home country of Colombia. So
that's right.
Y'all have already heard his voice. Welcome to the show, Irvin. I'm glad to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maxwell, for inviting me. And you were the one who contacted me first, and I was absolutely interested in hearing your story first of all when I got to know about your work, and that was amazing. And I'm always inspired by people who do great things, and I try every day to also just put a little bit of work and try to do my best so that with that work we can also benefit others. And I think what you are doing is fantastic, because more people will know that if they want to do it, they can do it. And so yes, my name is again Ervin Liz. I am originally from Colombia. I was born to an indigenous community. The name of my tribe is called the Nasa people. Nasa is also the name of my language, and Nasa in my language means the people. So it's very funny and interesting how how it works in there. But yeah, Nasa means the people. And again, I was born in Colombia, in the Cauca state. And you were right mentioning the part about me growing up without electricity, and we actually didn't have road or electricity until 2002, and so I grew up without most of the what would that be called? Most of the
the normal conveniences of the Western world.
Right, like the basic conveniences that most people would have grown up with. I didn't know how, I didn't have TV, or I didn't have like a video game in my room, that kind of stuff. And that was good in many regards, because one of the things that I always tell people, whenever they ask me about, what's probably one of the most important traits to have in life, and I always say is patience. And I think I learned that patience by living there, by growing up in the middle of nowhere, because, we didn't have phones, we didn't have access to computers, none of that kind of stuff that, back then was already available. Not so much as today, but it was already available. Yet I did not have any access to these kind of technologies until I went to high school in 2006. And so having that lack of so many things, again, really taught me about taking things easy and just going about doing them one day at a time. And I think today we need to have perhaps the same mentality, because everything today is just so fast that we forget the really meaning of life, which is to enjoy it, I think. So yeah, that's a little bit about, a little introduction there about my life in Colombia, and then in 2010, my sister, she found this scholarship, and she told me, "Hey, Erwin, do you want to apply to this scholarship?" And I was always this curious kid who wanted to do something different, so I say, "Yes, let's do it." And I didn't wait. I didn't wait for her to to give me more information. I say yes, yes to it. I applied, and I was very lucky to get selected, and so that's how I went to Norway. I went under a scholarship. The college that I attended is called the United World College. And this is a series of, they are called colleges, but that doesn't mean that this college, as in the US, meaning where you go for 4 years. This is more of a high school. It's called the United World College, but really what it is again, a high school. So I basically completed my high school in Norway, and from there, from that door being open there, I was able to come to America to then actually do my college, which I studied economics. So I graduated with a master's. I'm sorry, with a bachelor's degree in economics.
Yeah, and it's the one thing I liked the best out of what you were saying there is you said yes immediately, and I talk to people about a 4 questions method to accomplishing goals. And I always say the first step is ask yourself, is there something I could do? And if you can do it, take action on it immediately. And that's exactly what you did. I'm very impressed by that no one had to talk you into it or remind you to do it. It was like, yeah, I'm going to do that.
Exactly. Yes. And again, many people, they think too much. And I think thinking is a good thing. You always have to be very thoughtful of your actions, of your decisions, of everything. But when you have to be decisive, you can't be just wandering around for a long while. And there are many ways that you can get to that level of decision making. But I think being curious is probably one of the most important things. When you are curious, you always want to know, maybe this is not the best decision, but I will do it anyways, because I can either get a very good outcome, or I can do the mess and clean it up later, as a friend of mine says. And so,
I like that.
Yeah, you have to be decisive in life. That's for sure. Absolutely sure.
Yeah, and you mentioned curiosity. I recently read a book by Elizabeth Gilbert, the author who's famous for Eat, Pray, Love. The book was called Big Magic. She talked about the creative process, and she said when passion deserts you, curiosity will carry you through.
Right, exactly. And this is very important, I think, because when you are curious, you always want to do something else. You always want to try something else. There is really nothing more career killing, I will say, or even life killing, than to not be curious, because you pretty much get stuck into just something. And when you get stuck into just doing one single thing, that's when most people say, what am I doing with my life? Why, they start hating their jobs. They start saying, okay, I what am I doing in this company? Or, I should be doing something else. I should be traveling the world, and that kind of deal. And this doesn't just come out of nothing. It came through a series of decisions where people just decide to stick to a single thing because they are very afraid to try something else. Now, I'm not saying that building a career is a bad thing, by no means, because that all depends on how you approach the career, how you think about the things that you do. But most of the people, they wish that they could do more. They wish that they had something different. They wish that they had, travel the world, or I don't know, just about do about anything. But they are always just too afraid to do it. And I think when you are very, very truly curious, you are not afraid of trying it. You just, again, do it, and if it goes well, then it's great. And if it doesn't go as good as you planned, then again, you clean the mess after.
Yeah. I have had this conversation with several business owners and coaches, and I've come to the conclusion that for a lot of people, one of the best things that ever happened was the economic collapse of 2008, 2009, because so many people that for years had been saying they wanted to do something different, they no longer had. I mean, yeah, it was terrible. They lost their jobs and a lot of them lost their homes.
Right.
But at the same time, they were freed of a job, many of them freed from jobs that they hated, and were looking for some reason, some excuse, some way to go and do something different, like you were just talking about.
Exactly, because there is no choice. But you know, but this doesn't happen every time. So most of the people, because they don't have a true incentive that takes them out of the norm of what happens every single day, then they just remain stuck in whatever, you know, whatever it is that they are doing, and that is just very sad. But then again, I'm not trying to criticize absolutely anybody by no means. I'm just saying that curiosity is a really good thing, where if you know how to use it in your favor, it's always going to be something that you never regret. I honestly don't regret about doing anything, because I know that at least I tried. I know that at least I did it, and again, if it didn't go good, well, it's okay. And if it went really well, then it's a blessing.
Yeah. In just a second, I want you to talk to people about how you started this coffee thing that you've got going on in Minnesota. But I wanted to share one of my favorite. It's a new quote of mine. One of my favorites. Tallulah Bankhead, one of the stars of the 40s, 50s, the golden age of motion pictures. She's when asked if she would change anything in her life, she said, "Yeah, I would make all the same mistakes, only sooner." Always sooner, So I kind of agree with you and I think a lot of people would agree with you. It's our mistakes that really help us move forward towards where we really are meant to be. How did you end up starting a coffee company? I know you're from Colombia, but I'm from Texas and I don't own a cattle farm.
Well, first of all, I have had a long history with coffee. Let's put it that way. My father was a coffee farmer, and so I grew up in a farm, helping Dad, to do all of the process that goes into producing, screening, washing, drying, and and finally selling the coffee to the co-ops and to the buyers that go to the towns to purchase the coffee. And so again, I grew up doing all of that process down in Colombia. And when I was here in the US, I went to college at Luther. This is in Iowa, Northeast Iowa. So I was about to graduate last year. And one of the questions that I had is, what can I do for myself that can also have an impact on other people? Because, I believe that if I can do something for others, I will always do it. And that's just how I think, and that's just how I feel. And so, I was just in that thought process when eventually I realized, okay, well, the region where I come from produces one of the best coffees from Colombia. The region itself is called Tierra Adentro, and this is within the Cauca state. So the Cauca state is rather large, and the Tierra Adentro region is made out of two municipalities. One is called Inza, and one is called Belalcázar. Those are the two municipalities in this region, and these municipalities produce the best coffee pretty much from Colombia. And I know this because, well, one, because I grew up there, but two, because I was doing my research over here in America. And when I was looking for the specialty coffees, every time that there was, a website or a post, an article saying, where can I go and get the best green beans, it was always pointed to the Tierra Adentro region. It was always pointed to the Insa town. And so I was like, here it is, this is it. So I was, again, thinking, what can I do for me that can also help others? And I decided, well, if these other people are importing coffee over here, the best coffee is produced in this region, I guess I can also do it. And so I immediately went ahead and contacted, a bunch of, a few coffee houses, and I asked a few friends, and it was a process, of course. But eventually I said, okay, it seems like there is an opportunity here. I'm going to pursue it. And my other thought process while I was doing this is, coffee is a product that in America gets sold at a premium. Even if it's a $6 a pound, it is still a premium, because in Colombia, what the farmers get paid for their coffee, it rarely is ever above $1 per pound. And now this is not the American pound. This is the 500-gram pound. So this is a half a kilo. So the American companies always have an advantage of about 50 grams per pound. They are always making profit regardless. And so what the estimates say is that from all the coffee trade in the world, only 1% of the profits go back to the people who grow it, and everything else stays within the intermediaries. And so I was like, I would like to do something.
I want to stop you for just a second because I want to say that again just to make sure everybody understands this. Two things. One, he's talking about grams and kilos, and basically down there's 1.1. There's probably 1.1 pounds they're getting paid for 1 pound. That other stuff is disappearing.
Yes.
So 10% of the stuff is coming off the top before, and that doesn't count the price you're getting paid for it versus the price it's being sold for.
Exactly.
Then the second thing he said, guys, is the people who grow the coffee that you drink, the coffee you pay $9 for at Starbucks, they make 1 cent out of every dollar that you spend on that expensive coffee.
That's correct. That's absolutely right. And so, and you can do the research as well if you are interested. You go to Google and check it out. But yes, that's basically what happens. And so I was, again, I grew up in the farm, and I know how hard the labor is. And why I'm saying this, not to victimize anybody. I never really like to victimize anyone. But what I feel is that we should all learn to appreciate and reward the people properly for their efforts. And for me, it's very personal because I grew up in the farm, and because I feel that if I can help somebody, then I will do it. Everybody else has their own interests, but that's very much what I had in mind. That's what I thought. And so again, I decided then to put, a plan together, a business plan together. And then at that point, I contacted my now good friend and business partner, John Backlund. I met him at college. One time he came to speak to college, to Luther, where I was going. And we became friends over a period of about three years, a little bit more than 3 years. So I told him, hey, John, I have this idea. I got this plan. I got these sheets. I have contacted people. I already have my exporting license, being processed and all that kind of deal. And he said, sure, send me the information and I will review it. And now John is a person who has been in business for over 30 years now. So he's a pretty well seasoned businessman, and he really knows, what he's doing. And so, he took some time to review the information that I was sending to him, and he said, sure, this looks good. And basically I asked him to be my main investor, and he said, yes, this looks good. And so we went ahead and got started with the company. And that's basically how it all got started. And after that, it's just lots of details, but basically that's the essence of how things happen.
Right. Okay. I'm talking with Irvin Liz. He's one of the owners of Colombian Coffee Connection. You can find him at colombiacoffeeconnection.com. He's also on Facebook. And at least the second time I didn't need you to help me say it, so I'm getting better.
That's right.
Right. So you started this business and you are selling specialty coffee. I assume that you're reselling to grocery stores and coffee houses. Could you tell us a little bit about how you managed to get your product into the various places that you're selling it?
Right. No, so actually we're not doing that. We're doing exactly the contrary. Earlier I was saying that that pretty much 99% of the profits stays with the intermediaries. So one of the things that I have in mind is we need to eliminate all of these people in there. This can be a little bit controversial because if this was made at a larger scale, we will put a lot of people out of business if this were to be a major scale, but this is not. And so because it's something small, we can pretty much whatever people could have been involved has been eliminated off the picture. And basically my idea was bring it directly from the people who produce it to the consumers. So what we do is we sell all of the coffee online. Everything is on the website, and we are working with a couple of actually with one coffee house and 2 churches right now. But this is again to the churches, we don't sell it at wholesale prices. We sell it at same price that everybody else is paying for. And so it goes again directly to the people, and every single sale, everything, 10% of the profits always go back to the community. And so that's basically what I had in mind, and that's what we are doing. So we are not selling in shops, and in terms of sales people to people, it's pretty much, you know, going about and telling people about the coffee. And, you know, I have lots of friends and lots of people that I have been able to meet through being here in Minneapolis. This is where I live right now, and it is a very slow process because we're also not paying for any marketing. Everything is being done just mouth to mouth, and, you know, it's pretty much like building the you know, putting the building together brick after brick, and that's pretty much the work that we're doing, because we want this to be, you know, something that grows very solid, something that is sustainable, and something that the people who get the coffee, you know, it's people who really care, because the coffee is not cheap. The coffee is sold at $32 for the bag, and the bag is 12 ounces. And most Americans, you know, and most people around the world, they are used to, you know, $9, $10, that kind of deal for their coffee. But ours is at a premium price. Now, this is not just because we want to charge a premium price. The coffee in Colombia is screened by hand, and we have a very, very high standard for the quality of coffee that we are bringing in here. So to give you an example, from the first batch that we imported, it was 150 pounds what we purchased in Colombia. 50 pounds were screened out, and we only end up sending 100 pounds to America. And this is all on our cost, right? So of course there are costs of production. In the second batch that we had, it was 750 pounds. We only sent to America 610. So lots of that coffee is getting screened out, and only the best coffee is being sent over here. Again, it is screened by hand. The process is overseen by my father in Colombia. We bring the coffee from Colombia 3 weeks after harvest to our warehouse here in Hutchinson in Minnesota. And so the coffee is extremely fresh. It is kept over here in a temperature and humidity and dust control environment. So it is completely clean, absolutely clean. And so all of these things add up. And ultimately, I roast the coffee myself by hand, small batch, 4 pounds at a time, right? So there is lots of things that go into it. The coffee isn't at a premium just because we want to charge a premium. It really is because it's extremely high quality, but also because we pay the farmers 3 times more than anybody else, and we give 10% of the profits back to the community. And so that's basically the model that we're trying to implement. This model doesn't go along with most people. It goes along with a few people who, you know, understand the value that they are getting, and also the value that they are giving, not only for us as a company, but also for the people down in Colombia, and pretty much honoring those farmers, you know, who put the best of their effort into doing a fantastic job in growing and harvesting and providing the best specialty coffee that we could find.
Right. And how much did you say that 12 ounces of coffee costs?
12 ounce costs $32.
$32.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's the price.
How many cups can a person get out of 12 ounces?
Yes, out of 12 ounces, you can get 35 8-ounce cups. Now, if we dig down, if we dig deep down into the economics, it is actually cheaper that you purchase a 32 pound at a $32 a bag coffee than if you were to go to, you know, any coffee company like Starbucks, like Caribou, like any other coffee company. Because if you go to, you know, let's say a Caribou or something like that, the smallest cup, the 12 ounce, is no cheaper than $2.5. That's for sure. Now, if you multiply that, for every pound of coffee, you can make 46 8-ounce cups, right? That's what you can make. 46 cups come out of 1 pound of coffee, right? If you sell those cups at 2.5, you know, you are making over $100 per pound, right? That's how much you are spending as a consumer if you go to buy it at Caribou. But when you buy it with us, the price is about 60 cents per cup. So it is actually cheaper to buy it at $32 per bag than if you were to a Caribou and buy the coffee already made. Now there are conveniences into that as well, but the math is, the numbers are lesser buying this bag at $32 compared to buying it again at a Caribou, at Starbucks, or at anywhere else, the coffee that is already made. I don't know if I gave too much information, but
No,
I hope it was.
I was see, I love good coffee, but I'm also known for being very tight with the dollar. So
Right.
I was just sitting here listening to your numbers, and I was thinking, that if you get 35 cups out of a bag, and an 8-ounce cup is approximately what you get if you use a K cup, which is what I use, because quite frankly, I'm not smooth enough to put the stuff in the cup myself most mornings.
Okay.
So I feel like I saved myself on stuff I'll have to pick up off the floor by letting somebody sell it to me already ready.
Right.
But those cost on average about 60 to 75 cents per K cup, and that's if you're buying the cheap Walmart brand, which we all know is being mass produced by people in China somewhere. So I can't fault your math at all. I mean, I would like to say there's no way, but I really, when I think about it logically and follow your numbers, it makes sense that it's no more expensive and is actually cheaper.
It's actually cheaper
than if you're going somewhere and you're buying even the small or medium cups of coffee already made to go. So
yeah, that's absolutely right. That's essentially what I'm trying to say. And yeah, so there is lots of people who don't realize about this. The average American going to purchase the coffee outside already made, they spend anywhere between $150 to $250 per pound of coffee. That's how much they are paying. But they don't realize of this because they don't do the math. You only go and you pay $4 or $3 at a time. And so you don't realize it, but over time it adds up. And so, if you're spending that much and you can get the same coffee for just $30, then you are saving rather a large amount of money. And so when I explain this to people, it really is eye-opening, and they're like, "Oh wow, I'm not gonna complain anymore about this because it just makes sense."
Yeah, what you need to do is you need to record a YouTube video, one of those like 3-minute infomercials, telling people just how much money they would be saving buying your coffee. That's what you need, man. Only a little 90-second, YouTube videos, and I tell you, if the right person saw it. One of these people that's really frugal saw it and fell in love with your math, man, you could be famous next week. But
right. No, and what we are trying to do is we're not trying to sell to the masses either, because this is a business that for me it's not about skyrocketing in a couple months or in 3 months or even a year. I work on the side. I am building right now other businesses. And for me, this is more something that really should come from the heart. We're not going after the millions of dollars. It's probably never going to go into that. But what I do want to do is to be able to help the farmers in Colombia, even if it's just one farmer at a time. If we can give them all of these advantages, they will be better off. And then if we can go to another person, then it will be great. But then I understand that everything takes time. Everything that is great and amazing takes time. And again, for me, I'm not thinking to leave off of this business. In fact, I am doing right now other jobs on the side because I don't want to, just take the business as the way, as my main source of income. That's by no means what I'm trying to do here, which is why I'm also not concerned about, getting 1,000 customers tomorrow, but rather building it, like I was saying at the beginning, brick by brick, with the people who understand and with the people who care, because there is nothing more beautiful, there is nothing more amazing than doing that. And when you get that type of people, you get a sustainable business. It's not going to fall ever, because people care, and they more than care, they understand. And I think that's extremely important when it comes to building a sustainable and long-lasting business.
I couldn't agree with you more. In my first book, I talked about knowing what success looks like to you.
Mm-hmm.
Too many people get caught up in this idea of what success looks like out in the world or to their friends or their family, and they don't, and they forget about that when they're setting their goals and deciding whether or not they're actually getting closer to their goals. So I love that you've got this really clear in your head as to what your goals are.
Mm-hmm.
They're obviously your goals that you're passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great example to people that, being this culture we have online where everybody's about making 6 or 7 figures,
right,
is not the end all and be all of the world.
Right. And they try to make it extremely fast. And now I'm not saying that it could not be done. It's most likely possible. But when you have just money and you don't have a clear mission behind it, most of the time people just end up, getting depressed. Most of the time they end up going into, life cycles that are probably not the best. And everybody makes their own choices. I by no means criticize absolutely anybody. However, if you are content with what you have, you are grateful with what you have, and you continue to work and acquire new things, there is nothing more life fulfilling, there is nothing more happiness giving than having precisely that. Because money doesn't buy you happiness. Money can buy you a Mercedes, and maybe that makes you happy for a little while. Yeah, that's true. But eventually, a Mercedes is just a car. It's nothing else than that. It's a car. And most people who go through these kind of things, they end up in situations that are probably not the best. And again, everybody makes their own choices. That's not up to me. That's not up to absolutely anybody. But how I see life for me personally is I want to build the things, taking my own time, taking the time that whatever the universe wants to take, doing the best job, working with the people who really understand, who really care, who are really passionate about what we're doing, and eventually get into it. Money for me, I don't know, I think I have had just way too many opportunities when I had nothing. If it was not for the scholarships, I would have not been able to go to study. But I have had many great opportunities where today, for me, my main concern is by no means making money. It's really to do the best that I can possibly do, to do the best and offer the best services to the people. And when I do that, it makes me happy, but also I get rewarded. And there is nothing more life fulfilling than that. It's just, I think that's the magical formula, I think.
Yeah, well, I agree with you, but I get into arguments with other coaches all the time
Mm-hmm.
about fees, about whether what you're charging is too low or too high.
Right.
And I'm usually the one that they're trying to explain to you, Max, you really can't do it for that. You need to get paid more money.
Right.
And one of my things I'm doing lately is helping people get booked on podcasts and radio shows. I'm helping them get exposure so they can share their dreams and hopefully, get more people to come along with them on their journeys. This morning, I get an email from a guy who says, Max, that radio show you got me on 3 months ago or 4 months ago? He said, that guy has put me on every week. He said, people are starting to hear about me. I'm starting to sell more and more of my books.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's why I do this. So
right.
It's really cool to talk to somebody who gets that.
Right. Exactly. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's how it should be done. I finished reading a book which is called, So Good They Can't Ignore You. And in the book, he was saying, most of the people are going about life wondering what is life going to give to them, and they never say, what am I going to give to life, or what am I going to do or what am I going to give to the other people. And I think just that shift in mentality can have a great impact into how you get rewarded, into where you extract that happiness from. And like you are saying, I don't know what you charge for this kind of services, but you feel great because you did something that is going to benefit others, and there is nothing better than doing that. I honestly believe that there is nothing better than doing something amazing to help others. That's just for me it.
Yeah. Now, I'm curious about something. I'm known for asking questions just because I want to ask them. And my friend Frederick Bach keeps saying, Max, it's your show. If you want to ask somebody a question, go ahead. They can always say no. I spent probably 12 years working alongside my dad, trying to help build a carnival business before he died, and I went to selling amusement equipment, and then I went to writing and coaching.
Okay.
But I'm just curious. You said your father is growing, and him and other people with him are growing the beans down in Colombia. What is it like being in business with your dad?
No, he used to be a coffee farmer. He is no
Okay.
longer a coffee farmer.
Okay.
Right now, he only helps me with purchasing the coffee, with screening the coffee, that kind of deal. And the Colombian family relationships are rather different compared to what you will normally do in America. In Colombia, people are always very tied together, and they always try to just help each other without asking for anything, without asking questions. That's what happens. And usually there is a very high level of respect for the elders. Even if they are wrong, there is a sense, there is an inner even intrinsic belief that you always respect your elders. And so that's basically what the relationship with my father is. Sometimes he's done a certain things that I didn't believe that they were the right thing to do, and we talk them out, but I never really criticize him, or I never go against him. If he has a decision that he needs to make, then that's what he will do, and he will deal with those decisions. So it's a little bit different, I think, the dynamics. I personally just respect always my elders, and my father particularly. So we always have a very, very loving, and more than loving, an extremely respectful relationship. That's what I could say. And this is both in terms of business and just as a father and son relationship.
Well, with me and my dad, we always felt like it was us against the world. So I can definitely understand working with some family and having great respect for them. I wasn't aware it was a cultural thing in Colombia, though.
Right. No, it is. It is an extremely important thing. Well, at least for me, as a member of an indigenous community, and I can't talk for Colombia because Colombia is a country of 46, 47 million people right now. So I couldn't speak for everyone, but at least for my family and for the community, I could say that it is mainly like that. It is a great level of respect for the elders.
Right. Right. Okay. Now, I know that you do specialty coffees. So what kinds or flavors or whatever of coffees are y'all offering people now?
The specialty coffees have different flavors depending on the region where they come from, and depending on what kind of crops are grown alongside the coffee bush, the coffee plants. And so what we have right now, it's not like a flavor coffee per se. It's more when you taste the coffee, the ones that we have right now is going to taste a little bit like it's a little bit like a citrus type of flavor, and it is also a little bit like almond. That's what you can taste. It's a very, very subtle, very mild flavor. and people who know about coffee, they will they will understand this. I think this is more for the people who really want to go deep down to the quality of the coffee and do the cupping. That's what it's called. The technical word for tasting is called coffee cupping, right? So you know, you do an entire procedure, and then you smell it, you taste it, and it takes like half an hour to just do that. But yeah, that's the particular flavor for the coffee that we bring right now. But right now we're only working with one farmer, so there is only one kind of coffee. This coffee is from two varietals, the Caturra and the Variedad Colombia. So the flavors are pretty much a mix of the two varietals. And now this is also a coffee that comes from high up in the mountains at 6,500 feet above the sea level. That's as high as coffee grows. And so the coffee beans are much more dense, and they are much more packed with the sugars that the coffee plant builds inside each bean. And basically, those sugars are the ones that transform into flavor once the coffee gets roasted. You know, the coffee gets roasted, so those sugars caramelized inside, and that's what gives the flavor and the aroma to the coffee. So this coffee is much more flavor intense. You are going to taste more of that coffee flavor, and on the side you're going to have these very subtle flavors, like I was saying, like citrus, a little bit like almond. So yeah, that is in terms of the coffee flavor, as you were asking.
Right. Well, it almost sounds like tasting of wine. That
it's like precisely. That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
For the amateur, wine is just wine. But for somebody who knows about wine, you know, you're going to taste all sorts of notes. You're going to smell all sorts of aromas. And that is precisely what happens with coffee as well. Which is why, you know, also what I was saying earlier, you know, we want to work with people who understand. Most people do not understand, or they don't have the time to go deep to these levels of knowledge of the coffee. And so, you know, that kind of people will not be able to appreciate it. That's as simple as it is. But the ones who do know how to appreciate it, they will say, wow, this is fantastic. And, you know, and the people that we have worked with until now, they are all 100% absolutely amazed by the coffee. Last time we served the coffee at a 3,000 people church, and at first they were saying, no, give me the other brand, and then we started giving our brand, our Colombian coffee, and it literally took 10 minutes. The people were coming back like, hey, I heard there is Colombian coffee. Hey, give me a refill of the Colombian coffee. I need a Colombian coffee. And then the coffee just disappeared. In less than an hour, 3,000 people, it all went away. It disappeared because even if they don't know, once they try the coffee, they know the difference. It's a rather interesting thing how it works. They just can feel the difference. But when you really know and understand about coffee, then you are 100 absolutely sure of every detail that is different in this coffee compared to others.
Yeah, well, I can tell you're definitely passionate about your coffee process, your people, and that's what I would expect out of a business person. If you didn't believe in it, then why would I? Or as I told people last year,
that's right.
If you're not believing what you're selling, nobody else will. So
precisely.
I am impressed though. I mean, you've really managed to start something totally unique in a very short period of time.
Right. I mean, we technically filed for the business in April last year, but we didn't get going with operations and everything until pretty much September of last year. So it's been a very short period of time, and we are working right now with several people. It's not what I would like to see. I would like to be working with more people, but again, I get to understand that it takes time. Not everybody, you know, is ready for the type of quality that we're bringing, and the price is not even the highest. You know, there are coffees that sell for $600 a pound. Now that is
Uh,
That is quite out of most people's pockets. But yeah, but then again, it just takes time, and everything is being done very carefully, very well planned, and again, just working with the people who really love what we do and really care, and that's pretty much it.
well, you've talked about how this coffee isn't for everybody. You're not looking for thousands of customers. But
Right.
is there a certain type of person? Is there a certain type of community or part of the country where something like this is going to be easier to sell? Or do you, I mean, who would you call your ideal customer if there is such a thing for your coffee?
No, I think there is this people everywhere. But when it comes to the ideal customer, it will be first of all somebody who cares about giving. It has to be somebody who is charitable, somebody who says, if there is need, then that's what I will do. It's exactly how I feel. Like I was saying at the beginning of this talk, if I can do something for somebody else, I will do it. Doesn't matter. I will just do it. So that will be the first thing that I will be looking also, that I am looking also into people. And the people who we have found as of now, that's exactly the kind of people that we have found, is people who care for others to start with. Two is people who care for quality. There is lots of people who don't care for quality. They just care for, most people say, hey, I just need coffee. So if that is the case, if that is the kind of person that I'm seeing, I just say, okay, it's good. We're friends, and that's it. There isn't anything else that we can talk in here. So again, first, they have to be charitable. The second thing, they have to care for quality. uh, there are some people who say that they care for quality, but then they complain about the price, and it just doesn't make sense, because if something is done well, if something is done properly, it costs. It doesn't matter what it is, it's going to cost. And if you are honest about the costs, it's going to be pricey most of the time, a little bit more. It's like, you can't find a BMW for $4,000, a new one. You can't, because it's quality, and so on. And we can go through that in many examples. But anyways, so going back to the question, sorry. The third thing, it has to be somebody who has a certain income level. So, I'm looking at people who will be earning more than 70K a year. That's the type of people that I'm looking into. We're not so much focused in location. So location can be people from pretty much any part of the country. Here in the US, we only sell to the US. And so right now, we have most of the clients are here in Minneapolis. We have had a few from Colorado. We have had a few from California, some in DC. So wherever they are, that's not the main focus. And then what was the last thing? I forgot. Well, let's just leave those four things. But those are
All
the
right.
those are the main four things that we focused, because those are the main things that we as a company do. So the people have to see a reflection of themselves on the company, and that's basically the four driving values: is quality, is about being charitable, it's about caring for other people, and having the income to be able to spend on it.
Right. I just thought about something. Here in Texas, we have an ice cream company called Bluebell,
Mm-hmm.
and you can now buy Bluebell all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
But for years and years, you could not buy Bluebell outside of the state of Texas.
Okay.
And I have a cousin who grew up here in Texas, and might as well say she is addicted to Bluebell's vanilla ice cream.
Okay.
Bluebell is one of these places they make everything, or at least they used to make it all, by hand from
Uh-huh.
from raising the cows and milking them to everything.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
she moved to California with her husband. They
Uh-huh.
would pay $150 a month to have 2 gallons of vanilla ice cream shipped to them air express from Bluebell in Brenham, Texas.
Wow.
And I thought, that's no different than you and your coffee or other people and their wine. It's the same
Right.
thing. You have to find somebody who's really passionate about their coffee,
Right.
who has the income, and who also is swayed maybe by the fact that they are also performing a charitable service while they're buying their coffee.
Exactly. Precisely. And yeah, and there is all these kind of people. There is people who buy $150 a bottle of wine. Am I gonna, who's gonna criticize them? The same as there is people who will not care to buy the $600 a pound coffee. There are those
Yeah.
too. And so
Yeah.
it really is about finding the people who really care about all these things. But primarily, again, it's quality and being charitable.
Yeah, I find it really funny that if you tell somebody you spent $100 or $150 on a bottle of wine, they might be a little curious, but they're not going to be all that surprised by it because it's not an unusual thing. But if you tell somebody you're spending $30 on coffee, or 40 or 50, or like you said, 600, then it becomes a whole different thing because it's coffee. I mean,
because it's coffee,
so,
right?
Yeah. So what we need to do is what needs to happen is people need to get past this stigma of good coffee being a bad statement about your personality. That's what we need to get to, because there are a lot of people who like really good coffee,
right?
But they're going to get it stuck in their heads that $32 is expensive.
Right. But again, they also need to realize that if they go to a Caribou every single day, even if they spend $2, they will be paying close to $100 per pound. If they add just something else, maybe a little bit, maybe some whipped cream, maybe something else, they will be spending anywhere between $150 and $250 per pound of coffee. And so, that's the other thing that most people just don't see. And I had a friend the other day. Well, actually not a friend. He's a customer, and he was saying exactly the same thing. He said, one time, because he buys coffee every single day. So he says, 1 month I decided to do the accounting, just put all of the receipts away just for coffee. Between he and his wife, they were spending over $300 a month. So when you are spending over $300 a month, you realize, if I can pay $30 for the same thing, I am saying
it'll make you get up early enough to make your own coffee when there's that big of a difference.
Exactly. And there is lots and lots of people who do that, because coffee is a basic and most people get it pretty much every day. And so if you are spending, again, even if it's just $2, you are still going to be paying more by buying it outside than you will spend by paying $30 per bag.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's one of those things that falls into the category of stuff we probably know, but we don't want to know.
Yeah, it probably takes a little bit of education too. Most of the people, that's true. They just hide it in the subconscious mind, but they don't really understand and get to see the impact that that may have in their pockets, or just just realizing about it. There are some people who don't really care. They say, okay, I'm spending $300, I'm paying for convenience, and it's good. That's great, that's amazing. But there are those who say, maybe I could save a little bit money, so then it's better to go in a different route, in a different direction. So
right. Well, I told you before that I'm known for being tight with a dollar. To me, spending $5, $6, $7 on coffee at Starbucks is a celebration. Because I'm not a wine drinker. I'm not the kind of guy who's going to buy a bottle of champagne when something really good happens.
Right.
I'm either going to go to the Chinese restaurant or I'm going to go to Starbucks. That's because, as I like to tell people, I don't drink, do drugs, or chase wild women. So when I celebrate, it's usually food or coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of paying $1 versus $6 works in my mind.
Right. It just makes sense. And again, that's what I was saying. When I tell this to people, they just absolutely get amazed. And there are some other things as well, because there is nothing more important that we own than health. We don't even own health, actually. We only have it, and we can only improve it. We cannot even buy it. That's what is really crazy about it. And when you eat healthy, when you eat top quality things, pretty much you are paying for your health ahead of time. Most people wait to get sick to pay for it, and that's just a really bad way to approach things. And again, quality costs. And even if it's things, like coffee, like just anything, groceries, etc., if you are just buying the cheapest thing that you can possibly get your hands on, that can also affect your health. So the other thing that we have, included into the things that, the values, I was just remembering now, the values that we have, as a company too, is people who care for their health. We're bringing again a completely clean hand screened coffee, and other coffees that are purchased, that are brought in massive quantities, they are not even screened. That coffee pretty much gets sent as is, and then when it goes into the containers, there is all sorts of dust, there is all sorts of fumes, there is all sorts of smells, odors, etc. And all of that gets sent, and all of that eventually is going to adapt to your health. And so we are trying to give the best. And I think I lost the line of thought, but what I was trying to say is, you should invest in yourself first and foremost, right? And sometimes what seems to be expensive today actually pays off in the long run.
Okay, well, now you got me thinking about something. I agree with you on health. I really didn't start getting to where I'm at now until I addressed my health, and so is there any truth to the I guess you'd say the story or the advice that when you're drinking decaffeinated coffee, you're drinking coffee that's been processed with lots of caustic chemicals?
Yes, that's actually true. The decaf process. So as far as I'm not an expert by any means, but there are two main processes. One is through water, and the other one is through alcohol. They basically soak the thing, they put it in a huge machine. Again, I don't know the full process, but what you need to know is that all of the oils from the coffee get washed away and replaced with whatever chemical it is that they were using. Coffee has lots of very healthy essential oils in it. So when you are washing it away, you are basically taking away the nutrition that the coffee has. And not only the nutrition, but also the flavor. So whenever you just do the experiment, take a decaf bean and touch it with your hands. It's dry. It's completely dry. There is nothing else in there. It's just almost the solid stuff that was left in it, in addition to whatever chemical they use to wash it, because that's basically what it is. It's a very high pressure process. I couldn't tell you about the specifics. I couldn't tell you, what exactly is going to do to your health. But what I could tell you is that for sure you will be missing all of the good things that come with coffee, because coffee is not just caffeine. There is actually lots of nutrition. There is lots of antioxidants. There is lots of things that come with those essential and with those stable oils.
Yeah, unfortunately, the caffeine part is a diuretic, and for somebody who's supposed to go out of his way to get lots of water and keep it in his system, caffeine is a problem for me. So,
Right. No, that's true. And, it's a little bit unfortunate that, I guess there isn't much that I could say about it. I mean, we can't do anything about it. And again, there are some people who are even allergic to caffeine, and that's just very unfortunate. So that just goes out of my hands and goes out of the things that I can talk about, because I just don't know much.
Well, at least but the thing is you grew up in the business. So if anybody could tell me, maybe not the exact details, but yeah, Max, we do. It is pressure washed with chemicals that take away a lot of the good stuff and leave you nothing but the hard decaffeinated bean. So. That helps. That helps me a lot. It won't help me with my doctor or my nutritionist, but it helps me understand, which is good.
Right.
So before we finish, and I think we're getting pretty close to the end here, I'm with Irvin Liz of Colombian Coffee Creations.com.
Connection.
Coffeeconnection.com. Man, you got to get a shorter one. You got a shorter URL. Take it from a guy who made that mistake. You need a shorter URL. You know,
Actually, you
was
know,
CCC not taken? I mean,
it was actually taken.
biz or something. You know, maybe you could just. I mean, we gotta work on your URL. I mean, your name is great, but we got to work on your website.
Yeah, no, we have already talked about that. We're on that.
You're on that, good.
Yeah,
Because
we're
the
on
worst
that.
thing I ever did was call my first website midwaymarketplace.com because can't nobody spell it. So I end up having to spell it for them. They still go, well, can you just email me? And I'm like, okay, sure.
And then
But
they never go there.
yeah, ColombianCoffeeConnection.com. Okay. So
Mhm.
what are some of the things you would tell people in this last few minutes that would allow them to go after their big dream, or at least start thinking about what their goal or dream is if they haven't had one up to this point in their life?
Right. First of all, always be curious. Always. And being curious is not a bad thing. You know, sometimes some parents teach their kids, and even my own parents, they punish me at some point for being too curious. And just be curious. And the second thing is never be afraid. If you want to do it, go ahead and do it. If you mess it up, you will have time to clean it up later. Now, don't mess up too bad, but but just don't be afraid to do whatever it is that you want to do. And lastly, and most importantly, you have to pursue the things with a mindset that is not going to happen in a couple of days or a year or 2 years. If it happens before, celebrate it, but always go in thinking that this may happen in 5 years, in 10 years. When you have that mentality, you won't be stressed about tomorrow, because doing business shouldn't be about being stressed, or just any career shouldn't be about being stressed. It should be about doing what you love with great passion, with great enthusiasm, and always thinking that you are giving the best of you, not just a mediocre thing, by giving always the best of you.
All righty. Well, I really appreciate you coming on my show. And like I tell people at the end of all these shows, if Irvin can do this, then what is your excuse?
That's right. That's absolutely right. There are no excuses.
All right. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you again for having me here. And again, today I am here at the hotel. So if you hear some noises around, it's because I am at the hotel.
Well, you've got to. I'm impressed that you didn't say, well, I can't do this because I'm at the hotel. You're like, oh, we'll just do it and make the best of it. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we had a great show. We had a little bit of technical problems with some noise in the background, and I know some of you, some points may have had a little bit of trouble understanding some of Irvin's words. But the bottom line is, you can definitely feel his passion coming through. And so, some of the things that I take from this show today with Irvin is he's really big on curiosity, on always wanting to find out things and to investigate things, and not to say no to something just because you don't know anything about it yet. He's obviously very passionate about his family, his coffee, the people back home in NASA, and helping those people be better off by supporting them with part of the profits from the coffee. He made a good case that not only is this coffee an investment in our good health and also for our enjoyment, but I'm having a hard time arguing with his math, and trust me, I'm trying really hard to argue with his math. I am cheap. I'll admit it. I have trouble spending money on myself. I'm no longer buying coffee out of pouches, but I'm still not sure if I would be ready to pull the trigger on $30 a pound, even though his math works. And I don't get coffee out of the house a lot. If I were more busy, traveling around more day to day, that is, if I worked at a job where the time it took me to make coffee would be worth having somebody else make it, then, I don't know what my decision would be. But I love how he made the case. He gave us the numbers. And it was also nice to finally find out, at least from somebody who's been in the business, what the truth is about decaffeinated coffee. I'm going to still have to drink decaf because I don't want to get on the wrong side of my gastric surgeon or my nutritionist. But he makes a good case. It's kind of like what they used to say about vegetables that you boil on the stove in water, that you boil them on the stove in water, and a lot of the best nutrients go down the drain. And so I kind of think what he was saying there. But I really love the most important thing he said the whole show, and it was very early, was when his sister told him there was a scholarship where he could go to school in Norway, he jumped on it right away. He applied for it immediately. And that does go back to one of my 4 questions. If you can do it, take action immediately. Don't talk about it. Don't think about it. Just do it. And that's what he did. And I love seeing how far the guy's come. I mean, he's come from a place where they didn't have water or electricity or roads. And now he's living in Minnesota. He's building his own business. He's investing in people back home. I mean, he came on the show today. He actually thought the interview was going to be him talking about me, how inspiring my story is. I told him, your story is inspiring. People need to hear what you've done, how you got here, how you're building this great business of your own. So those are the things I picked up from today, and I hope you will join me again next time. You can find me at theblindblogger.net if you want somebody to get you booked on podcasts or radio shows so that you can share your story like Irvin just did on lots of shows and get exposure that will lead to potential sales or clients. Then I can help you out with that. Go to theblindblogger.net and click on the online publicity or the success stories pages. I do know that you have lots of obligations on your time. You have lots of opportunities, things you could be spending what spare few minutes you have. So I want to thank you and appreciate you for spending some of that time with me. Until next time, thank you. God bless you and take care out there. And there's bound to be rough waters, and I know I'll take some falls. But with the good Lord as my captain, I can make it through them all.